Hello and welcome to a new series. Richard and Paul's Chat About. Now, if you're new to the channel and you've never been here before, we do have a regular show called Sunday Chat.
Sunday Chat!
That's right. Yes.
I do it louder than that normally.
And this is slightly different because in Sunday Chat we talk about a range of different subjects, things that have happened throughout the week, blah, blah, blah. It's like a vlog. Just like a vlog.
It's a weekly vlog.
Whereas Chat About is slightly different. We take a subject, one subject, and we stick to it and we dissect it as far as we can, which probably won't be very far. So, this week's subject is a subject that we're relatively familiar with.
Yes.
Being fans of shows like The X-Files and such like.
What was that one recently that we've forgotten that we watched?
Project Blue Book.
Project Blue Book. We did enjoy that.
I'm going to have to put my glasses on to see my notes. But this week's episode is all about UFOs. What are they? Where do they come from? Who are they? And should you say yes to anal probing if it's offered?
Shouldn't that be alien probing?
Well, no, but that's what always happens, don't they? You've got Jim who's out in the field.
Yeah.
And his wife, and she's, "Oh, Jim, you've been gone for 14 hours. What happened?" "Well, Ethel, or whatever, I was out in the field and a spacecraft came and took me up, beamed me up and probed me anally."
Yeah.
That's what always seems to happen.
Where actually he fell on a fork handle, didn't he?
Well.
Yeah.
Or a bicycle pump.
There's always an excuse.
Always an excuse, isn't there? So we're going to explore some of these questions around UFOs. Now, we are not UFologists. Ufologists, clearly. And we're not Scoldy and Mully. What's the name? Mouldy and Scullery.
No, we're not them.
Mulder and Scully. That's
it.
it. We're not them either. Although some people have said I do bear a striking resemblance to Gillian Anderson.
Were they blind?
Probably. So, Paul, my first question, la question première, is, have you ever seen a UFO?
I have.
Have you?
I did years and years ago.
Tell me, Paul. Tell the viewers. Tell the people and potentially aliens beaming in from Zeta Reticuli.
So we had guests staying, didn't we?
Yes,
and
we did.
It was at actually it was quite a long time ago.
It was.
It was when we lived at Whitehall Road in a rented property.
Yes.
And
That's right.
You three were in the house and I was out in the garden.
No, we weren't. That's wrong. That's wrong, Paul.
I thought you were in the
We
house.
were all in the garden. We were all chatting in the garden. I do believe wine had been consumed.
Oh yeah, that might be why. Yeah.
We were in the garden. It was a summer's evening.
And I saw something go...
Well, it wasn't just you. It was you and our friend.
I saw something go really, really fast and change direction above us. And not too far above us. I mean, I don't mean like 10 feet. I mean, it wasn't thousands of feet. And our friend saw it as well. And it was sort of like, what the hell's that? I mean, it was odd. It was definitely an unidentified flying object. Definitely. And we went to the internet and checked, didn't we?
No.
I think I did.
We didn't have internet, Paul, in those days.
Yeah, we did.
This was 25 years ago.
Didn't we have internet?
No. We didn't have internet. There were no smartphones. No, we didn't.
Yeah, my memory's bad, clearly.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do remember seeing that.
Well, I remember you seeing it because you described it to me. Now, This was it must have been 25 years ago.
Well,
1994 it must have been.
it must have been about 94. It was definitely before 96 because we moved out in 96.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a year or so before that.
So remember, this was before the internet, this was before drones. There weren't things flying about in the sky randomly, willy-nilly all over the place,
No.
although we did live fairly near to Heathrow. However,
We still do.
nothing could fly that fast
No.
and change direction.
Yeah.
Not even satellites. So, UFO, what does it mean? Unidentified flying object. This is any aerial object which is not immediately identifiable.
Yeah. We saw one the other day, actually, didn't we?
Well, we saw what we thought was a drone.
Yeah, we decided that it was mostly a drone.
Yeah,
But,
well, it was black, wasn't it? It was black dot. in
Well,
the
it was
sky.
yeah, but we couldn't actually hear it. We couldn't actually see fully the outline of it. And I had my distance glasses on as well.
Well, so did
So,
I.
Yeah.
I thought it probably was a drone. It looked sort of squarish.
Well, you see, I thought it looked what do you call it? Five-sided.
Yeah, well, squarish.
Oh, that's
Same thing.
five
isn't it?
sides. No, square's got 4 sides, not 5 sides.
Whatever shape. It was unidentifiable. So,
But we identified it as a drone.
yes, potentially. I also saw one
Did you?
many, many, many years ago. It was it was around New Year. So it was either 1978 going into 79 or 1979 going into 80. I'm not sure. Can't remember. Now, we were driving back as a family at night from my grandparents' house in Wilmslow. And we were driving over Alderley Edge, which is a spooky enough place as it is. And I remember saying to my family, "What's that in the sky?" And we pulled over in a lay-by. And it was a large orange ball, rugby ball type shape with fire coming out of the back of it.
That's bizarre.
We all saw it. All 5 of us saw it. And it was low down. So it was winter time, so clearly you've got a vision through the trees.
How big was it?
I don't know, it was in the distance, so it would have been towards Manchester.
But you've got Manchester Airport there, haven't you?
You have, but that was fire coming out of the tail. That's what it looked like. And it disappeared out of sight. Anyway, we got home. My parents went out to the pub, because I think it was around New Year. And on the telly that night, there was the report of the New Zealand UFO that was sighted from an aircraft. I went nuts, as you can imagine. So yeah, that's my experience of seeing a UFO. I mean, I've seen weird things in the sky other times, but thought maybe it's a satellite or a meteor.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
like that, because I was obsessed with looking at the sky as a child.
And of course now you can see the space station when it goes over as
You
well.
can see the space station. We see satellites go over here. You can spot a satellite. You can spot one because it moves quite fast, not too fast.
Constant speed.
Constant speed. And very often it will flash as it gets nearer to or towards the horizon because it's illuminated from the sun.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And
So-
it goes in a straight line.
Yeah, that's right. Well, a perceived straight line to us.
And of course there are satellites that are stationary satellites, so you can see those as well, but you wouldn't necessarily know they're satellites.
So it's not unidentified. So what are these things? So as we've said, they can be meteors, satellites. Some people can mistake a planet or a star low on the horizon that's sparkling through the atmosphere because the atmosphere distorts light.
Yeah.
So it can make things appear to be flashing in different colours. So, you know, people do mistake things for UFOs.
Well, we were walking back from a friend's on Friday night, weren't we? And we saw something in the sky, and it wasn't flashing. So you know, when it's a plane, you always see that white bright flash.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "What's that up there? It's red. What's that up there?" And then I think you heard it.
We
You
heard
said
the
it's
rotors.
a helicopter.
Helicopter at night without a front beam.
Yeah. So it had the red light, but not a white light.
So
So it was a helicopter.
People can mistake things for UFOs. So let's get that out of the way straight away.
I do now remember thinking, if other people have seen this, when I saw it with our friend, I thought if other people have seen this, it's going to be in the Ealing newspaper. And of course it wasn't.
No, I mean, there have been cases where there have been mass sightings of objects. There is a case in, I think, Zimbabwe, where a whole school of kids saw a craft. I think it was the aerial school, I think, if my memory serves me right. They and a teacher saw a craft come down and a being come out of the top of it, and then the being telepathically communicated with the children and warned them of climate crisis.
Did the teacher get
I
telepathically
don't
done as
know,
well?
I don't know, but they all were asked by the head teacher to draw what they'd seen, and they kind of tallied up. So
I
that's
think
a mystery.
That's the key
That's a
thing, isn't
mystery.
it? When I mean, with anything that happens, that's mysterious. If you ask various people what they saw, and they come back with all different views of what they saw, yeah, maybe there's some. But if they all come back saying exactly the same thing, they've either all got together and said we're going to say this, or they have seen the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, this was a situation that happened fairly immediately. I think the children were asked to recount the story quite quickly because the teacher realised that the children were rather disturbed.
Well, yeah.
By it.
I think if suddenly something landed outside in the road and the top opened up and an alien popped out, I think I'd be a bit concerned.
So perhaps you wouldn't invite them in for a cup of tea and a slice of that lovely ginger cake that we've just had?
Or maybe I would.
You know, that's what they might be expecting, some hospitality.
Might be a sexy alien.
Could be.
There we are.
Anyway, so what are these things? What are these things? I'm talking about the craft.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't there originally an awful lot of people saying they were like cigar-shaped things? Wasn't that? There was a lot of viewings of cigar-shaped things, and then we started getting into the 1940s and 50s with sci-fi movies.
Let's just stop. Rewind. Because I think the question we need to ask ourselves at this point is, what has been reported throughout history?
Richard, what has been reported throughout history?
Well, thank you for asking, Paul. I have done some research, and there have been reports, written reports in history, in historical documents, dating back to around 1400 BC.
Really?
Yes. Objects spotted in the sky. Pliny the Elder, I believe, wrote about what he described as a spark from a star that started growing and getting larger and larger as it approached.
Couldn't that have been a comet?
Well, it depends on how close it got, Paul, because comets are still celestial objects.
Yeah, or
aren't
maybe
they?
a meteor.
Well,
But
perhaps.
then meteors go pretty fast, don't they?
They do. They don't travel slowly. And some of them sometimes break up in the atmosphere and give a loud, sort of almost thunderclap sound.
Yeah.
I've seen one of those many years
And
ago
that
as a
can
child.
look like sparking as well.
Yeah, it could be. You know, we don't know what that is because it was so far back in history, but there have also been accounts of silvery objects. There have also been a lot of artworks painted with little flying objects with people in them. You know, in
yes,
history.
yeah.
There's quite a few of those. You can Google them and find them quite easily.
Well, if you look back at some of the is it the Aztecs? Some of the the art and the carvings, they actually look like spacemen in spacecraft.
Well, you've got the Mayan calendar. That looks like there's a guy in the centre operating a spacecraft. I think Eric von Daniken, wrote a book about that. I think it's kind of been proved that it's to do with stylized imagery and stuff like that, which just happens to resonate with our modern idea of what a spacecraft would look like. But who can say? These are ancient things. So there's a whole sort of wealth of records in history, in art, that show this image of things in the sky. I mean, look at religious texts. People ascending in a beam of light, chariots of fire, and all of that.
Well, I mean, isn't it the Bayer tapestry that has got Halley's Comet on it?
That's Halley's Comet, though. It can
know.
be identified as such, so that's an identified object.
But it couldn't then.
Yes, it could.
Could it?
Yeah, I'm sure it could.
I didn't realise that.
Oh, well, no, what you mean is they didn't know it was going to come back round.
Yeah.
But I think it was viewed as a celestial object.
Right, okay.
But celestial objects carried their own portents of doom.
Yeah.
Didn't they? They were always considered, if something was seen at a certain time, it was going to predict disaster. But I think those were still identifiable things, weren't they? They weren't depicted as a little craft with people sitting in it.
No.
Some of those pictures in art have been shown to demonstrate. So that's all very interesting. So where are they coming from? That's the thing. This is a big question. Because
I don't think it's Bognor Regis. I think it's much further than that.
We know there aren't any planets in the solar system that have intelligent life on them, as far as we're aware.
Yeah, we strongly believe that there is no intelligent life that could do this, could travel, other than ourselves in the solar system.
So they're coming from somewhere else. And look, the gaps between the stars are so massive that it would take thousands of years to travel between the two with our current technology. So whoever's coming has travelled a long, long way.
Or are so advanced they have found a way of bending space and time to be able to get here.
They're warp drive civilizations.
Yeah.
Or they're appearing through portals in space and time. Interdimensional beings.
Well, that's sort of a bit Dune-y, isn't it? That's sort of a bit Dune-y.
Well, we can't say, can we? Because we don't have any proof or evidence.
Well, no.
But they could be opening up portals or wormholes and travelling through space and time. But why are they coming here?
Yeah, why?
Why? And why are they doing anal probing? I mean, no, but seriously, it's a question, because this is really weird. If somebody is abducted by aliens, there's a story, this craft came, I was beamed up there, and they anally probed me. Surely, if they've got the technology to travel great distances through warp drive, surely they've got the technology to scan a human body with a machine to see the inner workings of our fragile
I think so.
bodies. Don't you think? They wouldn't say, hold on a minute, I want to anally probe you.
Or with a slightly German accent.
Sorry to Germany, I didn't mean that. It was meant to be a robot voice. You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they would
it wouldn't
let
happen.
me scan you.
Well, they wouldn't. Most probably wouldn't even do that, would they? They might have just a little pair of glasses or something that would scan, and then it would have a readout like fighter pilots have.
Well, look, take it one step further. Hover over the house and scan the whole house. You don't need to beam somebody up. Maybe they're looking for a reaction.
Maybe.
And of course, the other question is, what type of aliens are they? Because there are several types, apparently, aren't there?
Well, there's the greys, which are
Yes.
the most popular
Yes,
To
I
be
like
a-
a little grey.
to be abducted by.
And people have them on key rings, and I'm sure there are soft plush greys. I was going to say gays then. Greys that you can have as a cuddly alien.
Maybe you get gay greys as well.
Maybe that's the anal probing thing.
Maybe. And then there's different varieties. But an
reptilians.
alien. What is an alien? An alien is something that is not of your land. That's sort of an alien.
Yeah, but we're talking about outer space.
I know.
aliens
So
now, not
if
illegal
we're
aliens.
talking about outside of our land, i.e., our planet and potentially our solar system, then they could be millions of different shapes and
Yes.
sizes, and some. Like going back to June, there's some that sort of have to travel in a liquid. They live in a liquid all the time. So the aliens could be millions of different shapes.
They could be miniature.
And
They could be here now.
They could be. They could be. And I love that bit in
That scared me. That has.
what's it? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where mice have created us as an experiment. I like that. So
Don't go off topic.
we might be an experiment for aliens. Planet Earth might be an experiment for aliens that they created. Planet Earth. Maybe they did it with Mars first and it didn't work, and then they've done it with the Earth.
You're frightening me now.
That could be how. In fact, I think that's happening. I think that's happening for sure. For sure.
You've opened a big can of worms now. I don't know where I am in my notes. So, if you are a YouTube fan, you can go down the rabbit hole if you want to. Because I have a few times, and there are plenty of, websites and resources. But let's think about modern times. We've thought about the ancient viewings of lights in the sky, little people riding on little cylinders going through clouds and things, and people depicting them in art, the Mayans depicting them in art perhaps. Modern times. Let's fast forward to modern times and the birth of modern UFO sightings.
When was that?
Well, some would argue that it was 1947 and it was Kenneth Arnold.
I'd argue it was 1946 and somebody else got there before Kenneth.
Well,
but there we are.
they haven't written about it, have they, Paul?
No, they haven't.
Kenneth Arnold was a pilot. I think he was a private pilot and a businessman. And he went on a trip. It was in the region of Washington. And apparently there was a reward for spotting a specific plane crash that had happened. So he decided to do a slight detour. And I think it was in the region of Mount Rainier, I don't know. And he spotted these glinting objects in the sky coming towards him. And he counted up to 9 of them. And that was when the term flying saucer was first coined.
Right, okay. Because they were saucer shaped.
That's what he thought they looked like. He described them as looking like stones skipping on water.
Right, okay.
So there was that, and then of course 1947 as well was Roswell.
Roswell. Yeah.
Which was, said to be a crashed weather balloon.
It was confirmed to be a crashed weather balloon.
But of course there are many conspiracy theories that say it wasn't, and that an actual alien was recovered.
And of course, a huge industry has
yes,
grown up.
A lot of people have
around
made
that.
a lot of money out of that, which is all a bit weird.
I'd quite like to go and visit Roswell.
So would I, and the little alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that Roswell? The little
Yes,
alien, or is
Roswell.
that Area 51? Or is that all in the same
Aren't
area?
they all in the same area?
I don't know.
I think they're sort of all in the
We're
same.
not aficionados. We've told you we're not ufologists.
Didn't Roswell findings go to Area 51?
I
That's
don't know.
the thought.
I don't know.
And they're in a hangar there.
Perhaps. Well, there are lots of other stories that we can get onto, but there have been a number of sightings recorded. There are lots of police records. There are lots of government records that have been released. In fact, the UK had its own version of the X-Files.
Really?
Yes. And you can actually go online and have a look at the records.
Yeah, because is it 25 years they get released?
I don't know, but some of them have been released. So do your research. We're just asking the general questions in this video.
I think it is fascinating, though.
It is, isn't it?
I mean, you know, I really... Why the Earth? I mean, if they... Or are there just so many out there? Are there so many different civilizations of a really advanced nature out there that, you know, they're visiting a whole load of planets in different solar systems all the time and just checking them out?
Well, or are we a holiday destination? No, we might be. Look, for example, Roswell could be the equivalent of you hiring a moped in Greece and falling off. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
They're trying to phone home, just like E.T., but they can't.
I've never seen E.T.
Because they crashed their vehicle. And they're trying to get back. And of course they get picked up by the US and then dissected.
That's not very nice.
Well,
is
exactly. Anyway, so
was E.T.
he crashed.
Was he based on sort of lots and lots of different sightings?
Well,
over the years?
I don't know, but he crashed his spaceship basically and was trying to get home, poor thing. Anyway, let's get back on track, Paul, shall we? So, other things to consider with UFOs. We mentioned Area 51 that you can sort of drive up to, can't you? You can't go in or you get shot. But there is a guy called Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Now, he worked at some secret place near Area 51. I think it was called something else. And he says that they've got lots of different types of craft in a big hangar that they're working on to try and duplicate the technology.
Well, reverse engineer is the word, isn't it?
Well, because
it would be so advanced that you would need to reverse engineer it to actually get to where you were getting to.
But the propulsion systems that they've looked at are like anti-gravity reactors, which of course we cannot, with current technology, we cannot even begin to replicate or reverse engineer because it goes beyond the realm of physics as we know it now. You know, you talk to any scientist, they're going to say anti-gravity, no, it's not possible. But apparently these machines, these alien craft, worked on that kind of propulsion. And they tested them. They tested them doing manoeuvres.
And did they manoeuvre?
Yeah, apparently.
You heard it here.
Well, if we have got the technology, why aren't they using it to advance society?
Because they can't replicate it.
Yeah.
And therefore they keep it secret, because as we know, if you don't know the answer to something, then governments do not want to ask the question or put the question out there.
One of the things I heard somebody say on a video was that what we don't realise is that the things they're testing are usually sort of 20 years advanced than we are now in aeronautics.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we don't tend to think about that.
No, I mean they've been looking at electric planes. In fact, there have been electric planes, but they've been looking at how to make electric planes commercially viable for decades. It does take that length of time to develop and to ensure that safety is there. I mean, look at what you call it, vacational space travel. You know, I mean, Richard Branson has been looking at that for decades now. making trips into space a recreational activity that you can pay for. It might cost an awful lot, but when they can actually do that, that means that in 20 years' time it will be far cheaper.
I think the thing also to consider, though, is that the human body cannot take those stressful manoeuvres. So if a craft is going along like the one you saw and then suddenly shoots that way, our bodies can't take that.
No, your liver and kidneys would carry on going that way.
You would literally, you'd have a stroke. You'd have a stroke, or your organs would get crushed, or your heart would stop working, whatever. So they would need some kind of system inside to stop those effects. And then you look at those aliens, those greys, those little willowy greys with those little bodies that they supposedly have, and you do wonder whether that is the kind of body that is required for that kind of travel. And I also wonder as well whether those creatures are us in the distant future, and those vehicles are actually some kind of time travel machine. I mean, I know travel to backwards in time in physics is not, you can't do it, it's forbidden, it doesn't fit the laws of physics. Travel to the future, yes, you can do that if you can travel near to the speed of light. But maybe they've worked that out in the future and they're coming back. And maybe they're coming back to warn us of what we're doing to the planet. Because if we destroy the planet, they won't exist.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, that's sort of suddenly... But that puts the Earth at such an important juncture in the future. I'm not sure whether that's a reality or not.
Well, neither do I. Because nobody's ever asked them.
No.
So that brings up the next question. If one landed in your backyard, what would you do? What would you say?
What would it say?
Well, we don't know, because communication is a whole other question, Paul. I mean, you've seen that film. What's that film?
Hello, Dolly?
No. That was Barbara Streisand. She's human. No, the one where they're trying to communicate with that craft that lands. With that woman with the blonde hair.
Oh, which one?
And they're writing the symbols on that bit of frosted glass.
I sort of remember that, but I don't remember that.
What's it called?
But there's so many, isn't there?
Anyway, they're in this tank in the spacecraft, and they're drawing these circle things on the glass, and she's got to decipher what it means.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean.
You know, that one.
But there's so many, isn't there? I mean, Men in Black is obviously all based around... These are all aliens,
But we're talking about communication
I
now, Paul.
I know, but there's different ways that the aliens in Men in Black communicate.
Yeah, but...
Some are via noises, some are telepathic, some are visual.
But they would have to learn English or the languages of the earth in order to communicate with us.
Well, but
and
if
do they even communicate? If they communicate telepathically, they're not going to be saying, "Hello, Paul, I'm an alien," are they? They're going to be going,
yes, but I mean,
no, I don't know what you mean.
They'll get into the synapses. Is it synapses? The synaptic nerves and things, and they might communicate on that level.
So you just know what they mean.
Yeah.
You just feel what they mean. Maybe. So, look, scenario is you're having your lunch in dining room, and there's a big glow in the sky and a whooshing sound, and all of a sudden there's a huge, well, I say huge, it can't be that big because that pear tree would be in the way. But
if it was big enough, it would just crush it.
A nicely sized
modestly
UFO comes down, and what do? Do you shit yourself?
Well, hopefully not if you're having lunch.
I probably would. What do you do?
I think you'd most probably hide a bit, wouldn't you? You'd
Yeah,
go into the kitchen and hide a little bit.
Well, I wouldn't go into the kitchen. I'd go under the table.
No, I'd go into the kitchen because then you've got the kitchen cabinet and you've got the windowsill and you could sort of just look.
Well, you could duck down
like
behind
that.
the sink.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and just pop up.
And
Although
then
my
look.
knees wouldn't allow me to do that.
No, but maybe the fear and the interest would transcend the knees.
Yes, the adrenaline.
The adrenaline was
So
kicking.
we're full of adrenaline. There's a UFO in the back bloody garden.
What are we having for lunch?
Well, do we let lunch go cold or do we pop it in the microwave for later? That would be one of my thoughts.
Well, they might want lunch. If they've travelled a long way, they
Paul,
might
come
want lunch.
on, be serious now. We're not serving the aliens our lunch.
Well,
Not yet.
if they're into soup, we've
Look,
very often got
It's
soup.
come down and a doorway has appeared magically in the craft.
Is it open yet?
And a little ladder's come down.
Why a ladder? Maybe they can just float.
Well, maybe they can, but not in this story.
Right.
And the ladder's come down and there's an alien there. And it's a grey. Or is it a reptilian? I don't know. It's a grey.
Is it summer or is it winter? Because the ground would be really quite squishy in winter.
I
maybe,
think
wouldn't
it's probably spring. All right.
Right.
Just
Are the
keep the
bulbs
kettle
out?
boiling, Paul.
The bulbs out.
Keep the kettle boiling. What do you do? You've hidden. You've seen the creature come, and it's waving. Do 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 do.
I'd wave back.
Yeah. Wave back. Copy it.
Why?
Because you don't want to do anything that might be misconstrued as aggressive.
I sort of wave like that, with my fingers.
And then would we open the back door and go out? Or could we possibly be potentially exposing ourselves to radioactive material?
We could be, of course, we could be.
Cosmic, whatever.
And of course, if it was really hot, then things would be burning on either side of the spacecraft.
Well, we're
wouldn't
assuming that they're using some kind of gravity propulsion.
they? Oh, right, okay.
So things that there are
It's
no
not
jet
really hot.
engines or... So what do you do? Do you call the police?
Well, what are they going to do?
Well, we don't know.
I think you'd have to open the door and say hello.
Hello? Hello?
Or maybe you could think it first and see if there was a reaction.
What would you do? Let us know in the comments below. It's a bit scary, actually. I'm a bit scared now. I'm worried.
What happens if we didn't offer them lunch and they just came for lunch?
I don't think they'd be able to eat lunch, human lunch, because I think that might be full of bacteria. Remember War of the Worlds?
Oh, that's true, yeah.
It could be full of bacteria that they can't process in their bodies, so they would possibly politely decline.
And if they're not vegetarians, which they may not be vegetarians, they might not be used to our vegetarian diet.
Yeah,
and
let's think about
could
the
give them
important questions now that we might ask an alien. I'd want to know where they'd come from, how they got here, what the propulsion was, how far away they were, whether they were descended from humans.
Or maybe we're descended from them.
Maybe. These burning questions.
Maybe they shot something into their solar system years and years ago and it landed on Earth.
Panspermia.
And we've all grown from that.
That's panspermia.
Whose sperm?
Panspermia, that's the theory of what happens when a rock hits another planet and it contains the information for life and it causes life to start on that planet. That's that theory. Yeah. So I'm not just a pretty face. God, do know certain things. So I think that was rather interesting to talk about.
I think
that
how
for.
long it'd taken them to get here as well.
Well, we don't know that, do we? Unless we ask them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a question I would want to ask them.
Lovely.
Has it taken them a day or has it taken them millions of years?
So, what have we learned from this discussion, Paul? Because we do know that there is recent footage of aircraft pilots who have shot footage of high moving objects
Fast-moving objects.
Fast-moving objects, I mean.
High in the sky.
Over the sea. No, over the sea. What are they? Where do they come from? Have NASA got craft in their hangars? Is Area 51 testing these craft? You know, we just don't know because they don't tell us. Do they actually know themselves? Are the conspiracies true? We'll never find out. And I think that wraps it up, Paul. I think we've done it to death now.
Yeah.
I feel much more confident in dealing with aliens and their probes than I did before. So, lovely. We're saying goodbye now. Thank you for joining us. Bloody thank you. In our little UFO discussion. We hope it stimulated you to find out more about UFOs.
And doing a Google. You will go into a rabbit warren, won't you? And just sort of go down and
Bye
the more
for
you
now.
look, the more you look.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.